can go wrong, will go wrong with the Morgan Thomas Show when I'm trying something new. I appreciate you coming in and being a part of episode 140, as the chat is saying, 148, 149, 148A, maybe 148B, whatever this episode is you want it to be. I hope that you're back with us. It looks like a lot of people jumped back in pretty quickly. And we also have Facebook back up somehow. I have no idea. We are all the guinea pigs tonight. I'm hoping to get the old way going or the other way going because it does provide me with some pretty cool graphic options. But this way is obviously working, which Al always tells me, Morg, go with the way that is working. By the way, Fizz Okla just subscribed to the YouTube channel through all of our pain and suffering. We have a subscriber. You know that even if Clemson loses, we dance if you subscribe. Dabo will dance if you subscribe as well. Let me get in our co-host again, Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome in again. Make sure to maybe say hello this time.
It's good to really be here this time. I mean, like I said, don't broke. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So here we are. I know you want to see us all pretty and in HD and all, but I think this is good enough. I'd rather us be on screen, be able to see and hear each other. I think the audience would prefer that too.
You can actually see the entire screen in this way, and that probably is better, to be honest with you. You'll get to see the chat. You can see the chat as well, right?
Yeah, I can see the chat. Yeah, we're all good here.
Yeah, so you can see the chat. You can see me, which is what you can't in the other way. So maybe this is the better way. You know what's even better? 3, and that is Mr. Houston Burnett. Welcome in, Mr. Houston Burnett. Thank you for being a part of the show and coming back in.
Yeah, once again, I'll reiterate, we only have the highest quality products here on the Morgan Thomas Show. We are operating at a 5-star level. Elite status is what we would call tonight's episode. That's what it would be.
Nobody said I don't have the highest quality products because everybody knows that. But everybody said I don't know how to use the highest quality products. That's probably really more accurate there, Houston. I don't know what I'm doing, and that is the problem. Yeah. All right, so let's get in the chat. Let's give everybody a shout out because that's another cool feature of this way is just, popping your name up. Tiggs says rewind, LOL. John says episode 149. Tiggs says 148A. Big thumbs up. We are all guinea pigs tonight. Yes, thank you so much. Now you've lost Alan and Houston. No, they're back. They're here now. They're here. Big thumbs up from Edward. Thank you, Edward. The best way to learn is to try. Yeah, Big Al. Maybe you should try that. Trying, actually.
Maybe we should do like a beta test.
Oh, okay. Yeah. John says we never actually said not hearing them was a problem. Ooh, ouch.
Oh, no.
Burn.
Oh, no. Come on now.
Good evening, fellas. Good evening, guys. Tiggs, hey, Big Al. We can hear Big Al loud and clear. Alan is a wise man. Okay.
Hard facts. Bringing the facts early tonight.
Let's move on to something else other than Alan. We don't need that. Edward says Houston sounds good also. Yeah, I think he meant to say looks good, but
as always, both sound and looks are the best of the show. Let's just say that.
As we say in the radio world, 5 by 5, for sure. 5-star elite Clinton gets in. Yes, we are. Houston can teach you. Houston. Go Tigers. We always love that. Since we didn't get the commitment from Lagway, all right, here now we're getting a question in here now. All right, so we're putting in some straightforward questions from the chat. Since we didn't get a commitment from Lagway, tell about our QB recruiting board as of today. Well, unfortunately, fellas, the QB recruiting board is two guys, from my understanding. I don't know if they've offered a third yet, but it's 2 guys. One of them was DJ Lagway, who committed to Florida, who entertained Clemson multiple times, came to camp, used my voice in one of his videos. With Al, I'm going to start doing cease and desist on this.
043. You're 043.
Use my voice, and they're getting paid for their NIL. I need to be paid for my NIL. That's all I got to say about that.
Fair enough.
Especially if you're not going to commit to Clemson. Don't use my voice. You only have two offers right now. Actually, I'm looking at the old. I'm looking at 2023. Let me look. Got to look at 2024. fellas. So 2024 quarterbacks for 2024. Right now, you have Jaden Davis from Providence Day School, Charlotte, North Carolina, and DJ Lagway from Willis, Texas, Willis High School. Obviously, Lagway, both 5 stars. Lagway, a Gator. Jaden Davis, interested in probably Michigan. So he seems to be pretty high on their board. Al, you think Clemson has got any chance with either of these guys, or maybe it's on to plan B?
Yeah, I don't really know about what they're going to do from here. I know the fans are going to get restless if they don't start offering somebody here, but that's just kind of typical for the recruiting world. I don't know. I mean, maybe they have a chance with Davis. I mean, he's kind of in the the general vicinity here, so maybe we can get lucky with him. But Lagway already obviously committed to Florida. I guess you never know in today's recruiting world; anything can happen. But I think it's time they start finding that option C and option D, and throw something out there. But obviously, Clemson does their due diligence, and they're going to make sure they find the right one before they're ready to make that courtship.
Houston, Steve Wiltfong has Michigan prediction as of October 30th. Steve Lorenz, MichiganInsider.com, as of November 17th. Sam Webb, Michigan Insider, and Brian Doan from 24/7 Sports, national recruiting analyst, has as well. All of them pretty 6 to 7 on a scale of 10 as far as confidence. Houston, do you think that this is a guy seems like he's leaning to Michigan, so it's time to maybe put your hat in the game for a third?
I mean, I think the one thing is, like, this is 2024. That you're not going to see a lot of guys starting to make a lot of their decisions until later this summer. That's why it's okay to take your time with the 2024 class right now, especially when you're shoring up 2023 in both high school recruiting and the portal right now. You got to focus with the bird in hand, as they say. But with 2024, it looks like he's going to commit to Michigan. That seems to be like what the rationale is. But things could change. You still have spring and summer. I don't know to what extent Clemson's looking to dive in with his recruitment. And also names keep floating around like Jake Merklinger. I believe he's a top 10 quarterback out of Savannah, Georgia. His film looks good. It doesn't – I think people tend to get worried that people much like all the other positions, people watch Star Watch a little too much. And I don't think that they understand that, it'd be great to get a 5-star like DJ Lagway or Jaden Davis. But if a Jake Merklinger comes in and is able to contribute, especially when you've got guys that like Cade Klubnik who look good on Saturday, and Chris Vizina, if he's able to deliver on his rankings as well, then 2024, you need a guy who can come in and potentially be someone like a Chase Bryce or push Chris Vizina in that way, or Cade Klubnik in that way. So keep in mind that this is a kind of an oddball year with what they're recruiting at for quarterback.
All right. Thank you so much, Tiger Paul 1979, for getting in. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we'll continue to go. Follow us over on Facebook and on Twitter at The Morgan T Show, at Radio Guy Houston. Tyson over on YouTube says, is Puma Chan coming back to provide depth? If you haven't been familiar, former Clemson quarterback is now back in the transfer portal after already leaving the Tigers to go to Georgia Tech. Didn't have much success over in Georgia Tech. He's a Connecticut guy, came for the Tigers, played a couple of games here and there, never really could even be trusted to be a solid backup for DJ, even when DJ was struggling what seemed to be the most. Al, I remember a specific game where Clemson went 7 straight 3-and-outs, and they still refused to put Tyson Pumachan in the game, left us all scratching our heads, didn't seem to get anything going here at Clemson, didn't seem to get anything going at Georgia Tech. Now he's entering into the transfer portal twice. That is a concern with what I have with the portal, because it's like, you never can find a home if you're never trying to find a home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't. You gotta stay where you're at sometimes and try to grow there. And also, the decision you make has to be very important, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you only get one freebie, and then the next time you have to wait unless you graduated, I believe. So I guess you could, if he might be at the point where he's graduated, so it might be a possibility there. But even still, you have to be very conscious with where you go. And if you're getting into the portal thinking the grass is greener, That's not always the case. Actually, Walt talked about this on the radio show on Road Rage that, only 40% on average the past 3 years have been picked up by another school. So you're talking 60% of guys are left without schools and their football careers are done. Al, I'll start with you. Thoughts on Pumachan going to the transfer portal yet again?
Yeah, look, this is the world we live in, the transfer portal world we live in. I think it's a disaster. I just don't know how people are going to manage their rosters with this kind of stuff going on. I don't know how they go back and make more rules now. I'm not really sure how they go back and do that. The NCAA's lost all teeth. We've all seen that over the past several seasons. But I just feel like they got to do something. This is unprecedented. I don't know if anybody necessarily thought it was going to be as bad as it is right now. I mean, you've got people entering the portal left and right. I don't know what the number is now, but it was like 1,300 or so earlier this morning, I think is what Mickey said on his show. That's a crazy amount of people in the portal. And, this is going to – maybe this sounds a little mean, but as far as those that are in the portal, if only 40% find a home, so be it. Like, I don't care. I mean, it's just the, hey, I didn't play this year, I'm going to leave type attitude. If that's what happens, that's what happens. You take your risks and you go on about it. Somebody offered you a scholarship, and in a place like Clemson, they'll offer you a 4-year scholarship. They don't usually do it a year-by-year basis. They do it by 4 years. And, if you choose not to want that, you need, greener pastures, and you go and you decide, well, it's, nobody wants me. Sorry. To me, you lose your scholarship. I don't understand. I wish we could do something about it. I don't know that that'll ever happen, but fingers crossed. I'd like to see it be a little less messy in the future.
Houston, John gets in and says Tyson should hook up with Mora closer to his home up in Connecticut. I know you're kind of our resident college football landscape expert. Thoughts on that?
I mean, it could happen. That might be what he's ultimately trying to do, or even with a situation like Boston College, they just lost their quarterback, but I think they have a ready backup in that case. So I don't really know. I mean, if it comes down to it and Clemson has 3 or 4 open spots, it wouldn't surprise me if they went down the path of maybe like a Hunter Johnson type situation where he comes back and he's a 3rd or 4th string guy that plays late in the games after, in mop-up duty. But I don't know. It's kind of odd. I don't think we know yet fully who's going to be going and staying or who else might jump in the portal. But I have a tendency to believe that this might be the first year to see Clemson really kind of dip more than just their toes into the portal. It depends on how many of those scholarships that they have available to do that. So if they only have 2, probably not. But if they have 3 or 4, I don't know. We'll see.
It all depends. I think Clemson's going to play it. I think they're going to reach out to players. I don't know if they're going to actually submit offers until they get a better idea post bowl game of where guys are going to go. Houston, you and I have looked at the depth chart multiple times. There's still guys out there that are unknowns that could be really big difference makers on the defensive line and the secondary if they choose to stay. So, it could change up what you really want to do in the portal, because as you mentioned, Houston, it's not going to be the portal pusher's dream of 16 players. That's not going to happen. Clemson already has a 23-player class that's replacing right now a 27-player attrition. So there's only really 4 available. Now, if the defensive linemen don't return, then we are back to 30, which means carry the 1, 4, 3, 4. Al, what is that? 7. That means you got 7. So that opens you up a little more, but it's still not. I mean, Clemson still thinks they're going to land a couple of more 2023 guys. So it's still not a full 7 of transfers. And as I mentioned in a video previously, it's not going to be Dabo giving all 7 to transfers. He's going to want to keep 1 or 2 for walk-ons. That's just what he likes to do.
I do want to actually say something about that, though. The more that I thought about it, you also got to realize this is not the only window. Okay. So you are going to have a little bit of attrition in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So you could utilize how many you want of those 7. If you want to use all 7, that's fine. Because I have a tendency to believe that maybe 1 or 2 guys, if they get here in the spring and things don't pan out the way that they do, they might hit the portal. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to happen in the way that it does in December, but you might have a couple guys say, you know what, maybe I will give this a shot somewhere else. Those are probably going to be the ones, if you have one or two, go to walk-ons. That's my theory on this.
I think that's a great point because there is another open window, I believe, sometime in May. This one closes January 18th. So you could get guys that are expecting certain amount of looks, Al, and they don't get it in the spring. They could be disappointed and bounce on you then. And then you can't really sign anybody because all your 2023 guys are already signed by then. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of a roster nightmare to try to keep up with when you can and cannot keep players in, on your team. You have to kind of play it pretty safe sometimes so that you don't lose key positions and depth at key positions. But got a lot of people in here applauding you, Houston. Houston is the man. They love your comments, and we love you as well for getting in. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. If you're a part of the show for the first time, we do this every Thursday night, 7 p.m. over on Facebook and YouTube. And anywhere else that they'll allow us to do it. And we also sometimes do it on the Roar, 105.5, 97.5 The Roar. We will be back in the studio at the Roar next Thursday, and I'm going to try to bring the laptop so that we can do a live stream and be on the Roar, but we shall see. All right, we shall see. We shall see. No guarantees there. So good topics, though. One thing that I wanted to discuss in that sense was, with the transfer portal, something that's really, I don't know if I would say it's rubbed me the wrong way, but I will say this. I don't understand the guys, the young men who treat it like they're re-recruiting. And maybe that is what it is, but you go into the transfer portal and some of the guys like DJ, you got to think they get the graphic designers from the school to make their post, right? They're not going on Canva like me and making a graphic on their own, right? They're getting somebody from the graphic design department. Now, if they're leaving in good terms, maybe the Clemson department is doing it for them, right? I think in a DJ situation, where it's a farewell letter and a entering into the transfer portal letter, maybe the school is creating it for you and you're not having to get that, on your own. But then I'm seeing guys who are now in the transfer portal releasing their top 8, releasing their top 5. For the life of me, I don't understand that. You are trying to get a second chance. You're not like a recruit again, like the pick of the litter here, top 5, top 8. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm completely viewing it way wrong. Let me know what you think. I mean, it's just, to me, I'm seeing these. I can get it from a recruit, but when you've already gone through that process and now you're leaving the school that was originally your top 5 and doing another top 5, I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me. Am I off base?
To me, it sounds like it's a best situation money deal. NIL has everything to do with it. You put out a top 5 or whatever it may be, the schools you're interested in, and see which one submits the highest bid. I mean, I think that's part of it, anyways. With the NIL landscape we live in right now. I
mean, here's what I'm going to say: it's the honeymoon phase. You love that, right? Yeah. You go through that recruiting time frame when you are in high school and when you're a sophomore through senior, maybe from the time you're a freshman to your senior, you are told that you are the best thing since X athlete to come through our doors. You're wined, you're dined, you get free tickets, free travel, free airfare. Everybody's tweeting at you, telling you how good you are. You get money potentially from some places. And then once you commit to a place and you get there, and you go through the de-recruiting process that a lot of people talk about, things aren't as rosy. And it speaks to a lot of places' cultures. I don't want to make this a thing about Clemson's culture or anything like that, but it is true. You go in there and you get somebody that's told that they're going to get the ball all the time or they're going to get all this money from NIL, and it doesn't pan out the way that it does. And this kid expects them to get $1 million deal and 500 catches in a year or something like that, then they're going to start to do this. And that's what it ends up doing. Like you said, with NIL, it's going to keep doing this, but it's always the honeymoon phase. You like that. It's a dopamine boost. And people don't forget it. You got seniors doing that because they remember that you're the same person at that age. Doesn't matter. An 18-year-old and 22-year-old, although they mature through that time, you're still very immature because you're, just getting out of teenage years into being an adult. You're still a young adult. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people in the chat agree with you as well. It seems like, there is obviously money involved, and there's obviously other factors involved. To me, it's just a little bit weird. You've got schools, you need another opportunity. You need that second chance, and you're going to release well, these are the 8 I might pick. I don't know. I wish I had the graphic up to show you what it was or who it was, but I don't remember. I saw it on Twitter and I was like, a top 8 portal teams. I couldn't believe it. You should be thankful that you're getting a second opportunity. That's my opinion. But anyways,
you are so out of touch with the teenagers of today. They ought to be grateful that they're getting a scholarship to go to college for free, but that's not enough either. So here we are.
Well, now I'll tell you this, and this is something I've thought about a couple, and I'm not trying to say that I'm against the collectives or whatever. What the NIL is, it is not what we thought it was. It is not Trenton Simpson starting a YouTube channel.
No.
It's not Justin Ross selling T-shirts. It's not Will Putnam selling sub sandwiches. Okay,
which is fine with me.
Which is all fine with me too. It's not Hunter Renfrow selling Nissans. It's none of that. It's absolutely none of that. It's these players getting boosters to run the show. Boosters. I listened to the Cover 3 podcast. All those guys on that podcast from CBS Sports believe that this has put the boosters at an even higher level where the athletic director actually is nothing but a face. And the booster and the NIL really runs the show. And if you're getting hired or fired as a coach, it's because that booster and that collective is wanting you to be hired or fired. And if you're getting players, it's not necessarily because of the recruiting. It's more about the booster. And they're doing it publicly now. They're doing it legally now. I don't know how I feel about it. Like I said, it's not even really marketing. They're saying that they're marketing and providing free marketing to these places, but you really don't even see it. You really see them and you don't see them marketing enough because I understand value of marketing from a corporate level. You don't see guys marketing products or businesses to the level of $3 million. You just don't see it, but they're getting that. And it's completely opposite of what I ever thought it was. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong on the players' part because I'm saying the players got to get their money, right? I agree with that. But what really bothers me is that the schools are still, it's like we're adding to, right? Give to the athletic program, buy your tickets, buy your parking. Oh, and now you need to do NIL too. And by the way, we're not going to give any, everybody says now the players are getting a piece of the pie. The players are not getting any of the revenue from ticket sales and things like that. So it's like the school gets to keep what they want. Who do we want the money from? You, right? The fan. The fan has to dish out more. And in economic times where times are getting harder and things are getting more expensive, it's kind of weird to me. Now, like I said, I'm not saying it from the players are wrong perspective. I just feel like it needs to be cleaned up. That's just my opinion. I may be completely off base, but that's my thoughts on it. Any closing thoughts on the NIL? Because we could go like 2 hours on the NIL.
Mm-hmm. We could, and let's not get me all depressed by talking about NIL. I can't stand what it's doing to the sport, to be honest with you. So, Houston, if you have any brilliant thoughts to share, please.
Okay. Well, look, sport's a sport, and it was going to happen either way or another. Everything that people had talked about, well, we should do this or pay the players and expand the playoff and transfer portals. It should be more player friendly. Okay, that's fine. And look, I'm for NIL in the right way. I'm for the portal in the right way. I'm for a very expanded playoff. Here's my problem with all of this. This could have been solved 50 years ago. And that's the truth of it. It's because you have a bunch of stubborn athletic directors who have no business managing money, no business running programs, people that aren't attached to athletics as a whole. They went to places that don't have college football programs or historic athletic departments or historic programs, and they are running conferences now. They're treating this like they're going business first, then player, business first, then fan, business first, then school. No, this could have been solved a long time ago. All right. And I'm okay with certain things like, I'm using this on a much more minor detail, but the expanded playoff, I'm going to write a piece about that in the offseason. I'm completely fine with it. Honestly, this should have been done once again in 1978 when they had the opportunity to do so, and they chose to just sit around and say, well, we gotta get our bowl money. There's nothing like it. And now we're finding out, well, you know what? You can still make a lot of money off the playoff. In fact, just as much money that way. And it's the same thing with the portal. It's the same thing with NIL. Guidelines should have been there years ago. This could have been more sensible. It could have been better laid out for the times then and then adapted as time went on for this. Instead, you're getting nearly 100 years of change in a span of 2 years. And it's just punching the entire college athletic landscape in the mouth right now. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's ruining the sport. No, it's the same thing. It's the same sport. You just got, it's the same, kids that feel entitled that they should be getting their cut just earlier. They're going to be the same ones that were doing that in the NFL, right? It's just happening earlier. You're getting to experience this. And so if boosters want to run their athletic department, be my guest. You're going to see a lot of places that end up like Texas A&M in the future. So once again, it deals with culture. If you got a culture to deal with it right now, you can hang tight until things level out, right? It's going to level out. It's going to have to. May not happen now, may not happen for 10 years, but it's eventually going to level out.
You're going to have teams like Clemson and coaches who still have morals and still want to have it be done properly in the right way. Dabo Swinney, I feel like, has that motive behind everything, not making it front and center. But you're also competing with teams like Louisville and Texas A&M, who are in Miami's of the world, who are just blatantly saying, hey, this is first and foremost. And this is what's leading the park, or leading how we do things here. And you look at I believe his name's Reuben Owens, #1 running back for the 2023 class. Al, it's not surprising. He immediately decommits from Louisville. Where does he go? Yep. Almost 2 hours later, he's with Texas A&M. It's not surprising because it was all about the NIL for him, which I'm not saying it's bad for the player to get what they feel like they're worth. I'm just saying I don't feel like it's sustainable for college football to do it this way, and I don't like the way it's structured. Honestly, for me, and I don't know if you guys agree on this, but to me, I'd almost rather just have everybody have a blank slate and make a certain amount of money. If they're a college football player, you all make a certain amount of money, and it does come from some of the ticket sales, and the schools have to come off some of that money that they're hoarding back to do, to rebuild the swim center or something, which, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. But either way, I think the schools should share, and it shouldn't always be from the fans having to donate, $15 here and there. And it's not even really the fans like me that donate, $15. It's the big players that go up there and just throw out 3 million or whatever, or 100,000, and get a recruit here and there. That's what's weird to me, is that, it's just, honestly, I say all these things, but I know what Mickey would tell me. He would say, Morgan, this is all things that's been going on for centuries. It's just public now. And now you're frustrated, but it's been going on. So, I can understand that perspective too. Like, get with the program, Morgan, kind of thing, which I understand that. But all right, so let's move on back to Clemson and away from NIL. Get back in the chat. Let's discuss something here. One thing that I wanted to bring up was my experience at the ACC championship game. Fellas, it was amazing getting on the field. One thing I mentioned on the show this morning, Al, is that I'm kind of short. I'm not what those guys are. So it kind of made me walk back some of my mindset on what an athlete is in Division I football specifically. But, I could say at times, at one time I could say I was a low Division II walk-on, right? But I mean, as much as you want to make fun of like DJ and how he runs like, with concrete on his feet, the guy is massive. He's way bigger than me. He's way more athletic than me, even though I think he runs goofy. And just kind of put it in perspective, like Cade Klubnik is just so much bigger than me, even though he looks like a little baby out there. When he talks, you're like, I am literally talking to a baby. When you look at him, you look at his baby face, you're like, I am literally talking to a guy who is just a kid, right? But I'm looking up at him like that, like, oh my God, this guy's huge. But to put it in perspective, Al, you know who I was as tall as?
Oh gosh, Amir Trap when he was there.
I was as tall as Kelsey Riggs. That's who I'm the same height as Kelsey Riggs. Now I will say this, Kelsey, if you're watching, you did have 7-inch heels on, so you kind of had me beat there. I think I could have outdid you, but I had regular shoes on, so she did have that going for her. But I might have beat her in the height. But I'm telling you, these guys are big, massive dudes. I watched the last 5 minutes on the field, and I'm just in awe. Al, I even went to the Clemson Penn State game, and have you seen PJ Hall? Photos of PJ Hall this year? The guy has been in the weight room, fellas. He is giant. He is shredded. And all of those dudes on the team are huge, way taller than me. Of course, I knew they were taller. But, I think sometimes when you're a fan, you get this tunnel vision of like, there are these little tiny things on your 70-inch TV. No, they're not. They are freaking huge. And I think it's funny how people like that. One thing I want to try to do next year, we'll say next year, is not be so critical on athleticism, because these guys could run circles around me, it really checked me up, and I'm like, these guys are extremely athletic. You cannot take that for granted. Now, are they the best player compared to their competition? No, maybe not. Maybe DJ is not as good as the competition he was against, but it's still, to me, I respect the athlete out there, and I'll say it in the sense of DJ. I really actually do hope that he finds a place where he can belong. I do feel like he is not just garbage, as you see on the forums, right? I do feel like he has something to bring to the table as a quarterback, and he is an elite athlete, even though a lot of fans out there, anonymous fans, Houston, I deal with them a lot. I think a lot of fans out there would probably say, oh, well, he's just trash. He's no good. He should go, never play. No, I think DJ is a lot better than you think. Maybe he's not what your expectations were, but I think it's good to go actually see the game and even be on the field if you can. I know you can't always, but gather at the paw, things like that, and kind of get a perspective. Houston, we'll start with you.
You want to start with me? You sure you don't? Al, do you want to get in first? Because I got thoughts here, man.
Al, you have all the thoughts.
Al, you go first. I got thoughts on this. Al, you go ahead.
I'm just jacked up. It took us 10 minutes for, Morgan to talk about how the players are bigger than he is. Like, we all didn't know that to begin with.
No.
I should have known that already, right?
Bro,
Houston, you get. I'm just going to briefly say about DJ look, I think DJ can thrive in the right system. I just don't think the RPO is it. I don't think that's his strong suit. I think he has strengths he can bring to the table. He's got a cannon for an arm, as we've all seen on display at times. He's more of a pro style guy. You don't want him running around and trying to make the reads, because that's not his strong suit. Get him back there with some receivers that can get open, like Cornell Powell and Amari Rodgers did against Notre Dame, and he can play. And I think you'll find him land with a team, and he's going to be able to accentuate those strengths if they have him in the right scheme. But I just wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, to start
with, Houston, we're moving on. We don't need to know what.
Oh, no. No, you getting this. First off, on DJ, I 100% agree. I think a pro style offense is probably best suited. Honestly, the best that he played in 2021 was when they were going under center. If you think about that, he was able to manage that offense better. And I think at times this year, when they had more of an opportunity to bring more backs or go under center on the field, he did better. So with that being said, I think going to a place like either Oregon State or Baylor or even Boston College, probably the best bet for DJ in that sense. Who knows? Wish him nothing but the best. He dealt with way more criticism than anyone needs to deal with. And with that being said, bro, you're gonna get on here on all of YouTube and say this is the first time you stood next to a college athlete and realized you didn't need to criticize athleticism that
No, I
much.
wouldn't say it was the first time I stood next to him because Mario Williams actually almost ran me over in the Clemson Florida State game, and I almost peed my pants.
Yeah,
I was so scared because he was so
still,
huge.
I mean, look, I know this because, and I won't name drop who the football players were. I had some guys from 2009 to about 2012 that I was friends with on the team. They were players. They did play a lot. Some of them are coaches now. And they'd come to my apartment a lot. They knew my brother. I knew them. They were very large individuals. And
Right.
the fact that they could move and do the things that they do, and then on top of that, manage a schedule. Like, I couldn't manage a schedule, and I was dumb in college. Like, that's just real talk. They were able to manage a full day from 5 a.m. until God knows when during football season with classes doing what they do. And this is back when they weren't getting paid. It's incredible. And then there's also a few guys that you look at and you're able to look eye to eye with, and you're like, huh. And then you realize that person can throw the ball 60 yards in the air. You can't do that. Or that person that might be looking you eye to eye has the strength of an ox and can rip your throat out if he wants to get a hold of you. So it's just something that it's definitely something that I always try to approach when I'm talking. I don't ever want to talk about athleticism, simply because when I talk about how they are in the game, but I'm not going to comment on that because I know, man, I can barely make it through a CrossFit workout without almost tearing my ACL. I ain't going to say nothing about somebody in their prime.
Well, I mean, and, John gets in, he says some fans are already complaining about Cade not having an elite arm. I mean, to me, like I said, I think that what I really I wanted to say that and kind of be vulnerable for a minute, because I wanted to express to those out there in the Twitterverse, in the forums, who just constantly feel like they know exactly what that player needs to do or exactly what the issue is. I really do feel like, yes, you can see things as a fan. Yes, you can see things from a big picture, but, like, DJ needs to do this or that or this specific thing. I'm starting to take a step back and think, I don't know if I can really engage in those conversations anymore, because the game, another thing too, Al, I was down there with the last 5 minutes, about 9 minutes to go, they put Hunter Johnson in there.
Yep.
Even in that situation with Hunter Johnson leading the helm, the sheer speed of the game, not just the third stringers being way bigger than me too, but the speed of the game was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, he literally does. I mean, 2.5 seconds to decide what you want to do with the football is extremely difficult. 2.5 seconds when there's nobody around you is difficult. But then 2.5 seconds when you've got someone like Brian Bresee coming down your throat it's like 1,000 times more difficult. So I definitely want to give some props to the players out there from as much as they've been able to do, and now have a chance to win 12 games this season is huge for Clemson. And Dabo's consistency to bring in these guys, pretty amazing to see. But yeah, again, I know I'm being vulnerable here, but I did want to say that. So another thing too, you guys hinted on it before, but the what do you feel like changed with Clemson as a team in the ACC championship game? And let's try to not say Cade Klubnik, right? Let's try to not say Cade Klubnik came into the game, right? That's the basic answer, right? But when you look at it as deep as you can, is that really the main factor? Is that really it? And why is it that it seems like night and day, in your opinion? Al, start with you.
Well, you're really setting us up for failure here, because that is the answer. That's exactly what it was, is that Cade Klubnik came in the game. I mean,
let's say Cade Klubnik. You have to say something else.
Our backup quarterback came into the game. Look, I mean, the offense was it's just different. DJ was having, one of those DJ nights. He's had some good games this year, and we talked about it, especially at the beginning of the season, and then he had a couple of bad games, and he had a great half or whatever, and a couple more bad games. It was just the inconsistency part. He couldn't find receivers. That was obvious, on the first drive. And he actually had a decent pass to Will Shipley on kind of a delayed wheel route. And Shipley, dove, couldn't make the play. And honestly, yeah, it would have looked really good on TV, but Shipley should have made that play. And he didn't. And that was DJ's last pass. That was kind of it. And Cade came in after that. It's just a different offense. Cade brings an entirely different dynamic. They are not ready for that at North Carolina because he hasn't played enough at all this season to really know what he can do or what to expect and what they're going to do with the playbook. And they opened up the playbook with Cade in the game. Big, even put out the trick play with Phil Maffa and throwing back across left-handed to him for a great pass. There was a lot of things they did after that North Carolina wasn't expecting. And I think something that we have to do is temper our expectations a little bit of Cade Klubnik, because he looked like he's one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever had the other night. However, we all know North Carolina's defense is trash. It's no good. They weren't ready for that at all. And so we'll have to see. He looked great. I mean, the throw he made to Allen in the back of the end zone was beautiful, right on the money. Now, Allen was – we actually talked to you guys about this. Allen was wide open on that play early, wide open in the back of the end zone. But his first read was Brian Brzee, who was leaking out to the right. And you can tell in the film, if you go back and watch the play, he looked to him, saw he wasn't open, and he was covered up. And then he looked back and he hit Allen with a perfect throw to Cole Turner. Awesome throw. He was just putting him on the money for the most part. So if you can get that out of him, that's going to help us, especially with the way he can extend plays. Our receivers are not very explosive. We've seen that. We've talked about that. I hear that on WCCP all the time. They're not explosive. They don't get separation. We've talked about that on this show for the past couple of years. And it's a problem. It's a real problem. But when Cade is able to extend plays and get out of the pocket, it gives them more time to get open, to find the open space, to maybe come back and break their route off. There's just so many things that Cade brings to this offense that DJ wasn't able to do. And, because our offense is an RPO offense. That's what we run. And in DJ, that just wasn't DJ's strength, plain and simple. So it was good that Cade was able to come in and do that, get some confidence going in, because he's going to play a Tennessee defense, which is not any good either. So I'm hoping he can just kind of keep the train rolling there. Obviously, they're going to have, a month to prepare. So it's going to be a little bit different challenge. I would say it's going to be a greater challenge than North Carolina. But we need to get some confidence moving into next season to really get this offense moving forward and back where we want it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a little bit of everything. If you don't want me to say Cade coming in, it is the energy that was brought with that.
Sure.
And we've seen that happen 2 times before. We saw it happen with Deshaun. The offense was inept under Cole Stout. And then when Deshaun was injected into it, it was a brand new team. Kelly Bryant was a better quarterback than Cole Stout, and in my opinion, DJ, but he started to taper off in 18, and then you insert Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor elevates to a national championship degree. Cade can do that. You've seen the team galvanize behind Cade. He's got that energy about him. I honestly think he's got a more like a bigger personality than probably some of our other quarterbacks, Trevor and Deshaun included. So when you get that infectious attitude about you, you play a little harder. You make your right reads. I saw Eric McLaren say, when you're that third look guy, that person on the route tree that's third, when you got a guy that can't make it to you, you might not take that route as seriously, and that's why you're not getting separation. Now you got a guy who can throw it. Now you're going to take every route seriously and go. I kind of see that as a little bit of a problem, but we'll get into that later. But you see that the defense picked it up. You open the play. Your offensive coordinators are more confident to open up the playbook to allow that to happen. Your guys actually start catching the ball. So a lot of other things kind of fell into place. And it is true. Like, you got to get that momentum going. Find guys that are going to be able to set that up. I do think there's still things that in the offseason need to be addressed in order to continue this growth. I think they've been able to kind of strong arm themselves into 10 and 11 wins the last couple of years. But there's going to be some things in the offseason that you can address to really get this thing humming going into 2023.
I think that one thing that Alan mentioned and Houston as well is just that the difference in how the offense runs between the two quarterbacks. I don't necessarily feel, looking back, that this was the right offense for DJ. And if DJ continued to stay and to continue to be the starter, if they didn't mold it around him better or change what they were doing, then I don't think he would have ever been successful. So I do hope that DJ goes somewhere where he may have a better quarterback coach, where he may have a better offensive system that fits someone who is not as mobile. Continuing to try to run the read option when he doesn't want to give the ball up most of the time for the whole season, and then when you forced him to do it, he actually did have success. But when it doesn't seem like he wants to naturally keep the ball and he just keeps handing it off, nobody respected the read option. So then that hurt the rest of the play. And then as Clemson alum 04 gets in and says, Klubnik has the speed to change angles for the receiver and defender. I felt like that was a key factor in the ACC championship game. You could see Cade Klubnik moving around in the pocket and slightly going to his right, to his left, kind of changing that angle between where the ball would be and where the defender is, and trying to find better ways to get the ball to that player. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know anybody who wants to say anything about arm strength. The ball he launched to Cole Turner, Al, I was in the press box in between. Houston, you've been to Panther Stadium. The press box in between upper deck and lower deck, probably 50 yards up. I mean, he chucked it as high as eye level to me,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as DJ has done almost all year. That was a 47-yard pass when he caught it. Ended up being like 68 yards total after the catch, but he caught it at the 47-yard. That doesn't include the yards that Cade was behind the line of scrimmage because he had all day protection in that play as well. So you could add on 4 or 5 more yards. So you're saying 52 yards from start to finish at the time that Cole Turner caught that ball. And not only that, but it was higher than halfway up the stadium. So, I mean that's just crazy to me how good of an arm Cade Klubnik has. He can throw the ball. He can sling it just as good as DJ can. Maybe DJ doesn't have to put as much effort as Cade does in his deep balls, because DJ, a lot of times I could just see him flick it and go 50 yards. But I do think Cade has a really strong arm. We saw that against North Carolina. One thing that I do like is that he seems to be more confident to stretch it. The deep ball to Cole, I believe there was a guy going across the middle that was actually open, that he could have went to, that would have maybe gained 7 yards. But he didn't do that. He did it because he wanted to take what he could get. I think that was something that I mentioned this morning, is like DJ's biggest strength is being a team player and just wanting to win. And doesn't matter who's in the spotlight, doesn't matter who gets it done. But in some cases, it's also his biggest letdown as far as a quarterback is concerned, because I'm not saying that I want you to be cocky and arrogant and Baker Mayfield-ish or Johnny Manziel-ish, but I do want you to be someone who is like Michael Jordan's sense of like, hey, I'm going to make you look foolish. I'm going to go out and I'm going to school you today. Like my dad growing up, man, he wasn't going to let me win any pick up basketball games. He was going to make me look foolish. He was going to run the score up until I could actually beat him and prove it, right? I think the same thing for DJ. Wherever he goes, I'd love to see him get that mentality of what do they call it? Like a killer instinct. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying, his greatest strength is being a great teammate. But I want him to say, hey, you know what? Now is DJ's time. Now is my time to show what I can do and go and try to beat me. I think that whole mentality of just taking what the defense gives you is good, but it also can hurt you mentally because you don't ever take shots like that. And to see Cade I think he had like 3 really, really deep balls in that game. You don't normally see that from DJ, and I think it would benefit him in the future. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, and let me see if I can share my screen, fellas, is somebody mentioned about the roster. I love my roster here. Let me pull it up. Somebody mentioned about the roster and how the wide receivers would would look, the wide receiver group would look. Let me see if I can put us on top and maybe it'll make it a little bigger. No, it made it smaller. Okay, there we go. So if I don't know if you guys can see that. Hopefully you can. But when you're looking at this, this is my way too early 2023 roster. This doesn't include anybody that's going to the NFL early. So, I mean, I haven't excluded them. So Miles Murphy is still there. Xavier Thomas is still there. Brian Bresee is still there. So I'm assuming that they'll be on the team until they announce that they'll be in the NFL. So you could mark those guys off just in your mind. If they go to the NFL, they're not on there down in the bottom left-hand corner, right? But as far as the wide receiver group, this is what I got. Now, Joe Ngata could come back, fellas. And Jalen Phillips has already been tweeting at him, you know, with some eyeballs kind of hinting at that they might be thinking about coming back because Jalen Phillips also could come back and Rukaroro could come back. But they all walked during their senior day. But I know that doesn't mean anything. But still, looking at the wide receiver group, I've got no seniors if Joseph Ngata leaves. We've got, well, I mean, Brandon Spector is a redshirt junior, technically a senior, right? But Brandon Spector, Will Taylor, if he stays and doesn't switch to baseball exclusively. Bo Collins, that's your juniors. Your sophomores, Troy Stellato, Adam Randall, Antonio Williams. Troy Stellato, a redshirt sophomore. Your freshmen, Cole Turner, redshirt freshman. And then your true freshmen, you got a big class of true freshmen. So you got 7 older guys, we'll say, or experienced guys, you could say, I guess, give or take. And then you got 4 true freshmen coming in. Ronan Hannafin, Noble Johnson, Tyler Brown, Tink Kelly could bounce between wide receiver and cornerback. Houston, I'll start with you. Is that what you're thinking? Is the wide receiver group going to look like? Again, this is way too early.
Yeah.
But what do you think if you take that group right there? What do you think your key players are in that group?
Well, all right. Let me start with something that I think there's going to be some changes with what you got. Obviously, this is way too early. Maybe Ngata does come back. Nobody knows yet. I tend to believe that, it hasn't been announced, but there's been rumblings Will Taylor is going to go to exclusively baseball. I don't blame him. If you're kind of in the mix a little bit, but you're getting hurt and your main sport is baseball, I'm not going to fault the guy if he goes and chooses to do that. And then, the one at the bottom, Tink Kelly, is one that kind of, it makes me wonder. I know that they were saying they're bringing him in wide receiver. They may test him out in camp in the spring at that, or maybe even into the summer. But I just get a feeling he's going to get brought over into the secondary to assist with that. I think eventually there's also going to be a transfer in this group too. The whole point of this, what you keep hearing if Clemson goes to the portal, is getting a guy that's experienced or has experience. And you know what? The wide receiver in the portal this year is actually one of the few positions that has kind of the guys that Clemson might look at, guys that are redshirt juniors, redshirt seniors, guys who are the type of guys that are upstanding people that are looking to kind of bet on themselves for the final year. So I expect at least 1, maybe 2 guys, depending on how many scholarships are available, to be in that room. So it's going to look different, but I think the guys that you're going to look to, at least from this roster this year, definitely Antonio Williams. He's a star in the making. I think you'll see Adam Randall be looked to make that jump from year 1 to year 2. And then Bo Collins be that seasoned guy that's been to the system for 2 years, who, if you have a guy who can stretch the field with Cade Klubnik, can potentially be that man to be on the long route.
Alan, we'll go back to you, Big Al. I got Big Mick over on YouTube saying Noble Johnson and Tyler Brown will see the field in 2023. I think Noble Johnson, obviously, he has shown just some absolute beast mode stuff out there. By the way, he's also a pretty good river dancer, Irish river dance. Maybe that will be his. He'll do a little jig in the end zone when he scores a touchdown. I've seen it on TikTok, by the way. Tyler Brown, he's from Greenville. He's also a guy who I agree we could see in 2023, guy we've all been very high on, super fast slot type guy who could spell out for Antonio Williams. And I mean, don't sleep on Ronan Hannafin. The guy is not another slot guy. Ronan Hannafin is a tall outside guy. He could dominate if he has some opportunities as well. These true freshmen could see a lot of time, especially considering, Bo Collins has injuries here and there. Brandon Spector has had injuries here and there. Troy Stellato hasn't had a lot of playing time at all. Will Taylor may not stay. I mean, these freshmen, this could be a very, 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 very young offense in general, but definitely young wide receiver group.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think just the nature of the position, the fact that there's so many of them, you can trot out 3 or 4 of them, or heck, 5 of them if you want to. So I think they're certainly gonna get some time. Noble Johnson, Tyler Brown would not surprise me one bit if they get to play a good bit in 2023. But I think your starting guys are right. Y'all talked about Bo, Randall, and Williams as your guys. I think that's exactly right. We're really looking, like y'all mentioned earlier, for Adam Randall to make that big jump. We need him to bring out his inner Mike Williams. That's what we need to see. We need him to be able to go up, get those jump balls that we love to throw. All right, he needs to be able to get those above everybody else. And everybody's excited now that they've seen Cole Turner a little bit in this last game. See what he might be able to do for us. I think we've got some talented guys. I think it's a speed issue. We all know Antonio get open, playmaker. I think there's a lot of potential on the team. Just speed is what we're looking for, I think. And I believe, like Houston, we're going to get a transfer portal wide receiver coming in my opinion. I don't know that for a fact. I have no inside source. I'm just saying I think that's something they will look to do just because, man, it's all about speed. It's all about wide receivers. It's all about the passing game. It's all about speed to get open and make plays in open space. So I think it would benefit Clemson to find a wide receiver in the portal.
That was one thing I wanted to bring up too. I was looking at it, and the On3 portal. Let me bring it up here. So 2023. So you're saying? Oh, by the way, I got rumors. I heard it this morning. Ventrell Cypress, cornerback from Virginia. All ACC guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, On3 has got him projected to Ohio State, but rumor is that Clemson has reached out to him, and he is listed on On3's website as the top player right now in the portal. So Clemson trying to get maybe possibly a cornerback as someone who could come play for the Tigers. When I look at wide receivers, I'm trying to think if there was anybody that was mentioned on the radio recently. When I'm looking at this group here of wide receivers, let me see if I can make it bigger for you guys. Yes, I can. All right. I'm looking through Ollie Jenkins, Dominic Lovett, Dorian Singer, Andrew Armstrong, DeQuise Carter, Chris Marshall, JoJo Earl. Al, we did a video on JoJo Earl. Alabama slot receiver guy, 5'10", super fast. I'm interested to see where he goes. He had some injury issues, didn't really get targeted much while he was at Alabama, and now has up and left. Is there anybody, when you look at the portal, Houston, Al, is there anybody that you feel like could work? I really haven't looked at it much. I was just curious if you guys had.
Houston, go for it. I haven't even paid any attention to who's in the portal yet.
I have 3 names that you can think about, and really 4. I think the 4th one is less likely, but it's at least worth keeping an eye on. Actually, that number 1 guy right there, Ollie Jennings. I know that he's crystal balled or whatever they called it on 3 to Duke or Virginia Tech. Some people think South Carolina's in the mix. One thing to keep an eye on with Ollie Jennings, I believe one of his family members is Kayvon Wallace. Don't know if that carries any weight, but I feel like we might be reaching out to him just to, play out the family feel of it as far as that goes. The other name that I would toss out outside of Ollie Jennings is another guy from CUSA. That would be Grant DuBose from Charlotte. His film is fantastic. His story is something that Dabo would jump at. He's from Alabama. He went to a D2 school. Season got canceled in 2020. He was working at Walmart, convinced one of his boys that was at Charlotte to get him a workout at Charlotte. Ends up getting on the team, getting a scholarship, leading the conference and receiving. And now that his coach is no longer on there anymore, and he's only got 1 year of eligibility, I believe, left, trying his hand out to see if he can get somewhere big. Know that it's going to be kind of hard because he's from Alabama, and I believe Auburn is pushing for him, especially with that new staff. But it's somebody to at least take a crack at since he's in Charlotte. The third name that I'll say, and this is my own personal favorite, number 10 on the list, his name is Malik Washington. I watched his film today. He's not the typical, like, hey, he's going to run out there and burn you type of guy. He's built kind of like a thicker version of Amari Rodgers. He gets yards, he gets upfield, and he's hard to tackle. He's built like a bowling ball. And I like the way that he plays. He's aggressive. He goes and gets the ball. I think our Northwestern connection won with Hunter Johnson. I think that Pat Fitzgerald and Dabo are pretty good guys. This is the type of guy that Dabo could probably go to and say, hey, is this guy, what's he all about? And if he's good and he's actually using his last year to elevate himself, I think he's someone to do there. The last one, this one's shot in the dark, maybe can happen, is Theo Weiss from Oklahoma. He's a stud. I don't think he's going to come to Clemson. He's a big body. He's got some T. Higgins in him, I guess you could say, or Justin Ross. He was one of the leading receivers on the team for Oklahoma this year. Things didn't go as planned. So I'm a little bit, I don't know. I know he's from Texas. I would think he's probably going to end up at either Baylor or A&M or TCU or something like that. But worth keeping an eye on going into 2023 if he's somebody that Clemson targets.
That's why I love having Houston out here, man. Thank you so much for going in depth on that, because I think those are a couple of guys that would be good guys for Clemson to at least kick the tires on, as you say, and see what they can do. Fellas, we had a little bit of everything tonight, starting off with technical difficulties and audio issues, going back to shades of 2015, 2016 or whenever we started this show. But we're back again, and we're back on it every Thursday night, 7 p.m. As you know, what we did last week, we're going to do it again this week. Remember, next week, Al won't be here. He's got something he's doing. I don't know, whatever. But we will be on the radio, one of our maybe last radio shows of the year. And Houston's going to get to see that brand new stadium or studio and check it out. Not a stadium, not that big, but it is nice. And so, as we end the show, as we did last week, we're going to start off with final thoughts of the night, and we'll let you sign off. We'll start with you, Big Al.
Look, first of all, don't hate for me not being there next week. I am doing the Lord's work. All right. We have a lock-in, Christmas lock-in for the youth group. We got to do. We got to get set up, man. And I got to get the light up football field going. We all love football around here. So it's going to be a blast. Going to have a good time. Look, I do want to point out my closing thought, as somebody talked about, Ruby Ridge brings up, says, be honest, Cade's pass to Spector should have been a pick six for North Carolina. I'd have to go back and look at that specifically. I do know what she's talking about. Obviously, that little swing past him to the right or to the left side, and he ended up taking that for a big gain there. Yeah, it was a close play for sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean it should have been a pick six. So I'll have to go back and watch and see my thoughts on that. And Cade's going to make some mistakes. He's got the gunslinger mentality. We're going to have to give him some time, but that's all right. I just love the fact. I'd rather lose with a guy who's trying to make a play than lose with a guy who's trying not to make a bad play. And Cade is definitely a guy trying to make a play. Love that about him. Love the spark. Love the energy he brings. And I think he's going to do good things.
Well, we appreciate it, Big Al. I hope you have a good rest of the night. Thanks again for being a part of the show, fella.
Appreciate it, fellas.
All right, Houston, we'll bring you up. We also actually have a donation from Double A 3015. He says, for $1.99, thank you so much for donating to the show. We really appreciate it. For $1.99, he says, Peter Wood's thoughts. Peter Wood's thoughts. I know he's been talked about a ton on 24/7 Sports right now because there's the All-Star game coming up in Alabama. Him and Christopher Vizina are on the same team, and he apparently has been completely dominating it, which is what we think he will do. And that really gives me encouragement from fans and myself who say, oh, no, what's going to happen to the defensive line if they all go to the NFL? Peter Woods is a guy who could definitely start very, very early on in his career in college.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, as much as I want having guys back like XT and Brazil, which could happen, Peter Woods is filthy. I mean, look, you can watch like 2 seconds of film and know this kid can break your neck. He is an animal. There's no other way to put it. This guy's going to play early. It's not a matter of if he does or will he develop. He's going to get on the field day one, game one, wherever Clemson starts the season, whether it's against Wofford or at NC State or whatever. He's going to be a killer, and that's how he plays. The whole thing that everybody's been saying is he's the hardest practicer. He practices the hardest out of everybody this week, and that's what you want to see, man. If he takes it hard in practice, man, he's going to come at it hard during games, and that's what I'm the most excited to hear about Peter Woods.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I think, I think obviously Alabama's still pushing very hard for him. They're not going to give up. They're going to go to the 0 hour to try to get him to convert over to Alabama. But I do think Clemson is in a very good spot. He seems to have developed a great relationship with Christopher Vizina, and they really kind of both have led the way in the recruiting class that Clemson has this year. So they've kind of anchored themselves in and helped solidify the 2023 class for Clemson. So to me, that kind of bodes well for Clemson, getting him to sign, bringing him in. I don't know if he's coming in early or not, enrollee that is, but bringing him in and getting him started on the roster. So we do look forward to having Peter Woods as a Tiger, and we really look forward to every single week of you guys being a part of the show and getting to talk some Clemson Tiger football. We've been doing this, Houston, next in 10 days on December 18th. Will be the start of our 4th year doing this. I think you started in year 2. So I appreciate you for being a part of the show. Give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's a better spot to be in Clemson this week than it was last week. I'm not going to jump to snap judgments over everything being a referendum for the program, but last week stunk. There's no other way to put it. But coming into this weekend, knowing what Clemson has in Cade Klubnik, even with all the struggles they've had, just that galvanized offense being able to just beat North Carolina down, and the opportunity to win another game with Cade at the helm against Tennessee, it makes things to be a little bit more exciting. Now what's curious is what things are going to be done to keep this going in the offseason. How are they going to address things in the portal? I think they will, and I'm excited to see it. 2, are they going to make some changes on staff, or are they going to add some staff when I believe there's legislation coming down to add staff. What are they going to do about that? You have a real opportunity to make things really be humming in the next year. And so I'm excited to see what happens, excited to see the changes and things that come along once the class gets signed in on December 21st, and excited to see what happens if whatever the result may be on December 30th, what happens after that.
Well, I appreciate it, Houston. Thanks for being a part of the show again tonight. And go ahead and follow him at Radio Guy Houston. Again, at Radio Guy Houston over on Twitter. Always great stuff. And he writes articles too. He's a writer at Rubbing the Rock. So go check him out there as well. Thank you so much. And always, Tiger fans, we appreciate you being a part of the show every Thursday night, 7 p.m. and also tuning in on the YouTube channel to watch all the clips that I put up throughout the week when I have time. But I appreciate everyone. It's been a great ride for the Clemson Tigers, looking to go win their 12th game this season and put a cap on the end of 2022, and then immediately get started for 2023, because there is not a day of rest when you're playing elite college level football, and the Tigers are definitely that. I look forward to seeing you again later on next week for the show, and we will be in the radio. I might not be able to comment to you in the chat, but we will definitely be live and on the radio as well. So thanks again for tuning in tonight. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.